Live, this is One for the Record. I'm Diana, and today is January 12th, 2013. It is Saturday evening, and here are your updates for today. I am going to attach Ann Morrison's report from NUTRIMEDICAL report, the Earth Changes part. Dr. Deagle wasn't in, so I'm just going to put her report on there. Also, heads up, there's a swarm of earthquakes in the Virgin Islands. I'm looking at the USGS, Science for a Changing World, on their website. And this is the ANSS. And I am noticing lots and lots of quakes in the Virgin Island area. You have a 4.3, 3.2, 3.4, 2.7. Let's move down. This is all today. Oh, it's 4.5, not a 4.3. Sorry about that. 5 point. Let's see. 5.4 in Iran. I'm looking at it's all around the world, I guess. But mainly I'm seeing 3.0, 3.0, 2.6, 3.0. This is all today. Let's see, 2.7 in Alaska, 2.7 again in the northeast of Road Town, British Virgin Islands. Let's see. .8. San Antonio, Puerto Rico, 3.2. Lots of earthquakes. It's swarming out there in the Virgin Islands. So heads up. There's a 4.3 in Alaska. Alrighty then. So be prepared. Also, there's Ann Morrison put out a earthquake alert for the whole state of California, and that will be on the report after this. You'll hear it. Alrighty then, moving on. The Watchers watching the world. Explosions and ash columns at Santa Quito volcano in Guatemala. Smoke continues to plague India and Bangladesh even months after onset of fires. And that's all the new ones from the Watchers watching the world. Moving on to the Extinction Protocol 2012 and beyond. Over 100 dead in French strikes and fighting in Malai. That's out of Africa. Also today, extraordinary new island rises from the Sea of German coast. I reported on that yesterday. Is China preparing for war or catastrophe? Mysteriously stockpiles rice and other commodities. Also today, giant red wave, dust storm pounds Australia. Orange aviation alert issued for Kamchata's Kizmin volcano following eruption. Heads up. That was today. And yesterday, California quake model looks for mega quake along Cascadia. So, everywhere I look, they're talking about a possible quake in California. So, something's going on. Be prepared. Even Max is back there saying be prepared. I hear him growling around back there. Alright, let's go to Fukushima, Japan. E&E News, Energy News. NHK, Fukushima Special. We may not have much time left until the next catastrophe occurs. Let me see if you can see him. He's going crazy behind me. Shh. Are you back there, Max? Let's see if we can see him. He's on the blankie. What you doing over there, Max? What you doing? Okay, I'll keep talking so that you can watch him in the background. He's got the comforter going on back there. Okay, let me continue, then he'll probably go jump around again while I'm talking. He likes to do that. Okay, let's get rid of this USGS. Alrighty then. Moving on. Today, photo, cracks found in spent fuel rods at Japan nuclear plant. Yesterday, Kyoto, unraveled vast scale decontamination after unprecedented event that spewed a large volume of radioactive materials on a vast tract of land, number Fukushima. And, but today, that was yesterday. Today, over 1 million becquerels per kilogram of cesium near Fukushima plant, 10 times higher than highest measurement in prior soil survey. Now remember, it's a cumulative. I guess he's not going to move around anymore. I'll move back. Alrighty then. Let's go to U.S. Canada. Today. Beach covered in BP oil within hours of being cleaned. TV. How quickly things can change. Also today. Local interview. No telling how big giant sinkhole will get. More oil and gas reserves to be exposed. Also today. TV. Leaking gases building up in aquifer near giant sinkhole. Bubbling has multiplied significantly since first discovered. And that's it. Alrighty. One day down to the weekend. We still got part of that day. And one to go. So, we're still into the weekend. We have one more day to go. Take care. I'll see you on the flip side. And always be prepared. Be safe. And if you're in a hazard zone, get out of there. Unless you feel lucky. I don't know. Are you lucky enough to win the lotto? Well, then you might not be lucky enough if you hang out in a hazard zone. Take care and be prepared. I'll see you tomorrow. Be safe. And stay tuned. I'm running the Dr. Deagle Show.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, John. Yes, there was. They had NASA had predicted a 50% chance of an M-class flare, and I want to remind people that the designations go B, C, M, X, and then the double X. And we had an M1.0 that was at 9 o'clock this morning Central Time, so we weren't affected by it. And then we also had an M1.2, and that was at 2 o'clock, almost 3 o'clock in the morning. So the Central Standard Time, luckily, did not get direct contact with these. Of course, the sun is below the equator right now.
Right.
And so we wouldn't expect to, except that we have seen activity in the northern hemisphere from the sun when the flares have lasted a long time. Now, in this case, the M1 that occurred at 9 o'clock a.m. Central Time lasted for 1 minute 13 seconds, and the other one lasted for a minute 14 seconds. So those were not of long duration. But a minute, when you're talking about such a massive eruption, it is significant, and I wouldn't be surprised if there had been some burns. There was an X-ray event that occurred at the same time, so people who were flying over the Atlantic Ocean at that time may have experienced more X-rays through them than they would on an ordinary flight. They never mention the sun when they talk about the average X-ray exposure that you get on a flight, but remember that they're at 30,000 feet, so that's 6 miles above the Earth, and they are exposed to more X-rays than we are down here. We're more protected by the atmosphere.
Right.
So that was very interesting. Now, the other interesting thing is it has moved. This is, oops.
Hold that thought. We got a break. Everybody stay tuned. We'll be back after the break.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that.
All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. This is J.R. Moore and Ann Morrison filling in for Dr. Deagle today. Dr. Deagle has the day off, and we're filling in here on the NUTRIMEDICAL report on Genesis Communications. Ann, why don't you continue where you left off before the break?
Okay, I do want to just say briefly that they're calling it the evil twins, because the AR-1654 is a big double sunspot. In other words, it's two sunspots. Both of them are 4 times the size of the Earth, and they are linked magnetically. So they're calling it the evil twins. And it looks like it's moved closer to the center of the solar disk, and that would mean that probably by Monday, any flares from that would be Earth-directed. And not that this one wasn't. This was at East 39, which is closer to the center of the sun than
and just for the benefit of those who aren't aware, tell us the possible effects on Earth and our activity on Earth from a solar flare hitting us.
Oh, well, they could be many. Anything above an M, actually anything above a C that has any duration. These only lasted 1 minute and 13 seconds, and that was a magnitude 1.2 and a magnitude 1. But it was an X-ray event, and that means that it was accompanied by an extraordinary solar flare X-ray emission. And what that does is that means that people that are flying, for instance, flying over the Atlantic this morning, or even close to Europe, would have gotten a double dose or triple dose of X-ray during their flight, just because this flare went off.
Understood. What effect would this possibly have on power grids, communications equipment, Ann?
Yeah, they didn't say it was accompanied by a CME, but I'm suspicious that it was. And if it is, they'll show a track of that. If there's a CME, then we have 2 or 3 days before it would hit the Earth because it travels much slower. But it could cause, a geomagnetic storm will cause power grids to lose their function. There'll actually be sags and surges in them, and so then the fuses get blown and you lose power. Yeah, that could be
very damaging to any kind of electronic equipment, couldn't it?
Well, and not only that, to navigation signals.
Right.
So you might have cases, we've had cases before where ships have run aground and airplanes have lost, they've missed the runway for one reason or another, and a lot of times you can tie that back to an event that happened on the sun. It just messes up all your electronic equipment. Now, we haven't, we need to store our equipment, but like I said, we'll have 2 or 3 days to do that, and so you need to put it into a Faraday box. I use a 30-gallon galvanized steel garbage can that
and pad it with some non-conductive material, such as a blanket or old carpet or cardboard, right?
Yeah, you don't want your equipment to touch the sides of the Faraday box.
Right, the sides or the bottom, any part of the metal.
I did want to mention that we think that there is from the number of earthquakes, when I looked at the number of earthquakes that have occurred in the last week, from yesterday, they've gone up from 186 to 383, and that's a tremendous surge in the number of earthquakes occurring, and these are earthquakes that are magnitude 2.5 and above. So there's been a tremendous surge in the number of earthquakes around the world, and that what happened before when we got the 8 and the 9, that's what happened, is that the number of earthquakes around the world jumped up above 400. So I'll be interested in seeing tomorrow if it does jump above 400. In any case, I think that there's a strong likelihood that we may be heading into another major earthquake. And I think that it might occur along the San Andreas Fault as far north as Seattle and down through California or maybe along the coast of Mexico. But, of course, it'd occur any place around the world. It's just that we're at new moon. New moon is today. And with this added up Earth, now new moon means that the moon and the sun are on the same side of the Earth, and you do get tidal surges that are higher at this time. And we just passed perihelion, which is when the Earth is closest to the sun. So it wouldn't be unusual if we should manage to trigger an 8 or even a 9 magnitude earthquake someplace on the Earth.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah, that's pretty darn scary. And if it happened, they've just put out a report in California that says before they had thought that the creeping segment, and that's just east of San Francisco, was locking. And so if an earthquake occurred along the southern segment of the San Andreas Fault in Southern California, it would not affect the northern segment, and vice versa. If an earthquake occurred on the northern segment of the San Andreas Fault, it wouldn't affect the southern portion. Well, they just put out a report, and they said that since we analyzed Banda Aceh's earthquake and the 9.0 that happened in Japan 2 years ago, April 11th, we had made the same theory, we had made the same hypothesis on those faults, and we were proved wrong.
Right.
That if the earthquake is big enough, it will go through the creeping section. They've always said before that when the section is creeping, in other words, if it has small earthquakes, then the stress is relieved there, and the earthquake, either north or south of it, won't be promulgated through that creeping part. But
the creeping part would act like a shock absorber, is what they were thinking.
Well, they were thinking that not maybe a shock absorber, but that there wouldn't be enough stress there for it to shake, to break.
Okay.
Because when they have the small earthquakes, it relieves the stress. I mean, any kind of earthquake usually relieves the stress, but of course it can increase stress on other parts of the fault. So now they're getting worried, and they're going to rewrite their emergency planning booklets. Because before, they said, well, if it occurs along the southern segment, then San Francisco can send down help. Or if it occurs on the northern segment, then Los Angeles can provide help.
Right.
But if it occurs along the whole segment, then who's going to provide the help?
I guess Nevada, New Mexico, and so forth.
Yeah. Well, there's just not the population to do it, John.
That's true. That's true.
You're not going to get people to come out of there from Las Vegas, and getting out of the Northwest is terribly difficult. You've got the Siskiyou Mountains, and probably the easiest thing would be to come across Arizona or even Mexico, and that would be one way to get Mexican troops into California. Of course, they think California belongs to them anyway. Anyway, so that's I do want to put out a warning to the people living in California, the whole state, that I think that there is going to be a big earthquake, and certainly the San Andreas Fault might be the full.
Hold that thought, Ann. We'll be back with Alexander Bachman after the break.